Welcome to the Longevity Lab, where we uncover the science, strategies, and secrets to living a longer, healthier, and more vibrant life. Today, we're tackling a topic that's become more prevalent than ever: anxiety. Because what's the point of longevity if you're not going to truly enjoy the years that you gain? Anxiety has shifted from a rare conversation to something nearly everyone is dealing with in some way or another. But why is this? And more importantly, how do we break free from it? Today, we're going to unpack the psychological, neurological, and lifestyle factors that are contributing to chronic anxiety and what you can start doing right now to take control. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Longevity Lab. I'm your host, Dr. Jae Hitson. Today on the Longevity Lab, we are going to talk about anxiety. Because in the context of longevity, what's the point of living longer if you're not going to enjoy those years? And one of the things that I am running into as my career has been evolving over the last decades, 25 years ago, people really didn't talk about anxiety. They talked about stress, but that wasn't really a word that came up a whole lot. Now it's just about every health history I go through, somebody has that box checked in front of anxiety. Anxiety is a very big topic. And I mean, there's entire podcasts just dedicated to this one thing, discussing it week after week. So first and foremost, I want to identify who I am talking to here today. Now, anxiety and depression, they have a lot of similarities, but they're also very different. And whenever I've been working through what gets these individuals better, I don't find the same pathways always working for both groups. So today I'm going to be zeroing in mostly on anxiety. We'll hopefully hit depression on another day. If that's, again, put it in the comments if that's a topic you really want me to hit on. With regards to anxiety, the individuals I'm talking to today, this has been going on for a really long time. You didn't just wake up yesterday and feeling anxious. This has been going on for months, years, maybe even decades. We're really talking about that chronic. Now, for those of you who, whenever we're talking about acute anxiety, meaning like this is something just very, very recent happened. Like this is a death of a loved one, a sudden loss of a job, something really traumatic happened. That's different. And I really, if that is you, if you had something very, very recent happen that has kind of put you into a tailspin, everything I'm going to get into today will help, but that's not the pathway we're discussing today. Today, I'm talking to the people who this has been going on for a really long time. A lot of you who you've tried medications and they just don't seem to be working for you. There's also a big group of you, especially the people who follow me. They don't want medications. They're not even willing to give those a try, that is fine. But so we're talking to the group who the medications either aren't working or you're unwilling to go that direction. In general, therapy just hasn't been really giving you what you're looking for. A lot of people say, yeah, it helps a little bit. I still have the problem. So we call it unresponsive to therapy. I'm a huge fan of therapy, but there's some people who it's just not. They're not seeming to get what they're needing. So again, if you're in that group, that's who I'm talking to. And I want to be very clear, the group that I'm talking today, you're actually not in any kind of imminent danger. So when we talk about anxiety and like, for instance, if somebody's in a war-torn area of the world, well, that's different. That's, there's a lot of very real potentials as to why you feel the way you do. I'm really talking to the, kind of the first world problem people where, fundamentally it's okay. Your life is not in danger, but you feel this tremendous pressure and stress and you just feel like even though technically, if somebody was looking from the outside in, they would say your life is stable, but you continually don't feel that way. I run into this a lot, especially as we get older. the career's getting stable, relationships are, fine, all pretty normalized there, children are out of the house, finances are kind of level, and you're wondering, like, why am I so anxious? So those are some of the categories that if you fit into that, this episode, this is for you. Now, as we're getting in, for those of you who don't, we can expand on that. I want to be very clear though. Again, anxiety is such a big, big topic. And when you get into some of the situations where the anxiety is extreme, well, that's where we have to get much more personalized. Today, I'm going to kind of give you some overviews of things that are extremely common at the very, very root. And again, even if you are having some of these extreme issues, the things I'm going to be getting into will help. But, your pathway may be more intricate to get you back to where you want to go. But I want to give you some things that you've never heard before or that aren't common. Because frankly, if all the information out there was working, well, we really wouldn't have this problem. So I really want to dive into some of the things that I am consistently seeing that are getting great results, but just aren't getting talked about nearly as much. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and dive in. Point number one, on a physiological level, there is your body, when it is in a distressed state, when it's in a stressed state, it will send you signals. I call them distress signals. It will send you signals that, hey, something's not right. And these are signals, and they feel like anxious. It's an anxious feeling. And it's your body trying to talk to you. Whenever there's like for instance, if you have like an underlying infection or like a virus or a cold, you just kind of get this overall sense of like unease, like something's just not right. We've all experienced that. Like whenever you're starting to to come down with something, or there's a lot of so many individuals who have had a very serious diagnosis. They have said before, something just didn't feel right. Now, here's what's happening nowadays. A lot of people are labeling that if something just doesn't feel right, feeling as anxiety. Now, here's kind of the problem that you're going to run into. If you label it anxiety, there's a standard of care. There's a certain path your doctors have to follow. And even if you start putting things into Google and you're using that word anxiety as the descriptor, well, you're going to keep getting this more mental, root cause type solutions and type answers. But here's the thing is, what if there is a physiological underlying component and not just being off on your endorphins? What if there is something just physiologically starting to brew that your body's trying to give you warning signs about, and you're just misinterpreting the smoke signals as anxiety? So one of the key things that we have been finding is that, especially whenever people have a malnourishment, like an anemia, not a full-blown obvious anemia, but just like a real borderline anemia. And that's whether it's like iron deficiency, a B vitamin anemia, and there's other anemias. Vitamin D, we're really aware of that one. We don't call it anemia. A lot of times it's labeled seasonal affect disorder, but whenever you're low on vitamin D, we know that you get this very moody, depressing kind of feeling. When we don't have the nutrients that we need, that is one of the ways that, the body will send a lot of fatigue, just a lot of just the kind of this overall melancholy. You just don't feel right. And by simply going on the physiological level and just getting the testing done, you can find out. Of course, you can DIY this and you can just start taking iron supplements or D supplements or B or whatever. You can go grab that. The problem I run into is that if you don't know what you're lacking, well, you don't know what you need to be fueling, and it gets really confusing. I also run into a lot of people, for instance, who they hear things like this and they say, oh, well, that's it. I'll just take more and more and more vitamin D. Well, that's kind of dangerous. I I've had 3 people in the last month who are overdosing on vitamin D, and they're actually creating a toxic situation in their body because they're just taking way, way too much. I've run into people all the time who are just off the charts on B12. They're taking so much. That's not as dangerous per se. It's just wasteful. I mean, you just literally end up flushing it down the toilet. But so that's where, again, it's worth just getting the testing so is this the problem or is it not? And looking at it from not just are you in a disease process level of malabsorption, or are you just like really borderline? So paying attention to that. Now, the other thing that I found, like, let's go further out. Like, let's just say, your kidneys are just struggling, or maybe your digestive tract has just been off for so long, or your thyroid is not behaving the way at ideal levels. One of the things is, even if that's not like the number one major cause of, how you're feeling, the anxiety, it's easier to deal with the mental when the physical is healthier. It's really hard to try, like, have you ever tried to do your accounting whenever you have the flu? It's just so difficult just to keep functioning when physiologically you don't feel very good. So, and then trying to battle something like a severe chronic anxiety and other things, when it's just like compounding. So one of the things I encourage is, even if it isn't like a malabsorption, isn't an anemia, just get better. Then you'll have more fuel, you'll have more energy to deal with this other problem. And one of the key things that I have absolutely seen is that as people learn how to fuel themselves better, and that's not just supplementation. I mean, and it's not just eating organic, but really giving yourself the proper resources that your body is asking for. It is amazing how you have more ability to cope, to see to the root of what's going on. Let me give you an example. So you in the body's feeding chain, who gets fed first. The more essential an organ system is, the more it gets first dibs on whatever resources you give it. Okay. So your heart, lungs, liver, first dibs. Essential organ systems get prioritized over non-essential organ systems. Well, one of the most essential organ systems is your nervous system. And when your nervous system, which, is the one that's going to be dealing with the stress and anxiety, when that system is just churning and burning up so many of your resources, there's just not enough left for everything else. And then that's where we see, those of you who've heard me talk about the unhealthy triad, that's where we start to see all of these issues with like thyroids and gallbladders and reproductive organs. It's, and I get so annoyed whenever I hear other colleagues of mine saying, well, just lower your stress. And now it's oh, that will just fix everything. But just understanding that it's not just lower your stress, but give yourself the right fuel. Give yourself the right fuel to be able to churn and burn and to have enough left over for everything else. So it takes, if you're going to really get, and if you're really going to get to the bottom of your issues, and, again, there's a lot of different pathways to do that. There's a lot of different therapies and techniques and all of that, beyond the physiological stuff that we're going to mention. I can't encourage you enough on how you need to be thinking about how you're fueling, because if you're really going to that's it, I am ready, this is my year, it's time to get to the bottom of this, it's time to address this, it's time to be free from it, be very conscientious of how you're fueling, what you're eating, how you're consuming. Are you giving your body all the resources it needs to be able to dive in and to resolve these issues, not just on the mental level, but on the physiological level as well? So again, that's just so often just doesn't really get addressed properly. So I want to get into that. Now, I will tell you that there is, like, especially of the people who are just totally unresponsive to medication and all that, you'd be surprised how much improvement people feel. And actually, we had some rated as much as 98% improvement just addressing the deficiencies. So right then and there, it could be even simpler than you think. Now, that's on the physiological level. Now let's talk on the neurological level. So there is this, there's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And the sympathetic is the fight or flight. And I like how they've added the third one. It's fight or flight or freeze, which is kind of what a panic attack almost is. It's that where your body's just shutting down. So here's the opposite. So you have this one side of the equation, and your nervous system, it's kind of like the scales or teeter-totter. So when one area is overactive, the other area is underactive, and it goes back and forth. When you are hardcore in fight or flight, which a lot of us recognize, and we know that we're there way too much. When we are there, understand that the other side of that equation, the other side of that scale, is rest and digest. So if you're constantly in that hyper stress state, you are not sleeping, which is imperative to good cognitive function, and you're also not digesting. Now, here's the problem. If that's for a day, so be it. But when you're talking about this is months and years and decades of not properly digesting, well, you're going to start spiraling down and down and down because it's just one problem's creating the other. So, again, I just got into fueling. You need all this fueling, but because of the fight or flight, you're absorbing less of the fuel. Even if you are consuming it, you're not absorbing it as well. And you're feeling like this awful trap that you're in. And that's why I really do believe so many people feel like I can't escape. I just can't seem to get out of it. And it makes sense. It's this horrible catch-22. So what do? Please do not get overwhelmed by the simplicity of my answer. First step, learn to breathe. Breathwork takes individuals out of fight or flight. So there are a lot of different breathwork techniques. You can lose yourself on YouTube looking up all of the different ways, and there's breathwork classes. And I mean, this has become just a beautiful national phenomenon. A lot of different, and I encourage you to find yours. Find your technique that works for you. But just, even the very simplistic one of box breathing, where it's a 4 count. So you breathe in for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you repeat this a few times. Just that simple act of taking control of your breath jolts your system from fight or flight and rebalances you into some of that parasympathetic and some of that rest, relax, digest mode. There's a lot of other things that you can be doing. There's definitely different massage therapy. There's other therapy techniques, out there. Even going for a walk in nature can be astounding to just recalibrate your whole system. But sometimes we don't have access to all of that in the middle of the day, in the throes of everything. You have access to your breath at every single moment of your day. And don't underestimate the power of what something so simple can do for you. With that, if you can start to shift the system and start to get to where now you're absorbing your nutrients, you're stopping the downward spiral. And even if you can get to we're no longer going down, 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 down. Now we're at least on an even keel level. You'll be amazed at how empowering that can be and the momentum that you can start to get to start making more and more progress. Another one that has been just so amazing as far as ways to stop the downward spiral is exercise. Now we know this from endorphins, and it really does. It's not necessarily addressing the root cause. It is not necessarily, while it's not necessarily, getting to the root of what's going on, my goodness, does it give us some momentum? My goodness, does it give you just some space from the anxiety? And I'm just encouraging you, find something that you can love. You may not love it on day one, maybe not love it on day two, but find something that you can get into. And if it's something as simple as walking, okay, so be it. If it's a class, if it's stretching, it's just moving your body and in a way that just feels nourishing to your system. That's what we're talking about here. We're not trying to lose 50 pounds. And that's, by the way, that is one of the issues that I run into for so many people who have been down this road. They try to multitask everything. And for the purposes of this, you just need to exercise to have some joy, to have some freedom, to have some space. This is not the time to also try to get the six pack and tone up the glutes and also, get your endurance up. No, don't overcomplicate it. That's kind of part of the problem. Just find the joy. Find something you can have joy in, and just make the room, make the space to do it. And it's amazing, again, the kind of freedom and momentum that you can start to get. One of my favorites, and this one you have heard before, but I just hope you hear again. Community is so important. And one of the things that I have found, many people who have finally found freedom, again, no medications, no, not going all those other routes. Find happy, healthy people and just get around them. Get into their space. I run into so many individuals, you've kind of gotten yourself trapped in this toxic support group of where the people you're around all are all experiencing a lot of the same thing. And some of you, that's your family. I mean, some of you, you got it honest. I mean, when you look at the broader spectrum as you're looking around the dinner table, you're like, yeah, I see where this is coming from. Now, again, don't get defeated because you're like, well, that is my family. How do I get? No. Just start to augment with some time with people who really truly have just an incredible, healthy, positive perspective on the world, and just be around them in the environments that they love. You'll find just such joy and liberation. There's the way that they talk, the way they engage with other people, the way that they just love. It really is contagious. And it's just so easy. I run into a lot of people who just keep reiterating their problems over and over and over again. And they're almost reliving it. And instead of gaining positive momentum, they're burying themselves. They're almost putting the dirt on their own heads by going into it over and over and over again, where really what you want to be talking about is, you want to be talking about what the victory is. You want to be talking about, what does it look like to be free of all of this? you really want to start just having a very clear visual mental picture of how amazing life can be. And it's so much easier to visualize it when you're watching somebody do it right there in front of you. There's so many different, different mechanisms. And I've run into a lot of different like exercise instructors who really are just joy, wonderful, amazing people. And, and just, getting moving while listening to their, their upbeat perspective. It's just absolutely phenomenal. The other place I found this a lot is working with various like charitable groups and civic organizations. A lot of the other people who are there and volunteering their time, I mean, it's not 100%, but my goodness, I have met some of just the happiest people with just the healthiest mindsets, as I've been doing some of this philanthropic work. So, and again, if you don't at first don't succeed, try again. But these are just some of the areas where I have been able to find just amazing. I think one of the other elements too with charitable work is just engaging in something that really matters. Just engaging in something that one is just a little bit distracting from maybe the same old that keeps occurring over here, and just getting a different perspective. And it also does help to just gratitude. So many of us in this first world problem era, the things that concern us, when you get some good perspective, when you get some good contrast on what's really going on with a lot of other people, it just puts it in a totally different frame. And it does make some things easier. So those are just a few examples of some beautiful places where I've seen tremendous community and where people have found just a lot of joy and just some liberation. Now, there are, again, as I stated earlier, when we first started this, some of you are dealing with some really hard things. I can't even possibly begin to expound upon all of the different scenarios that are out there. My purpose here is to get you some bandwidth, get you some breathing room, get you just a bit of momentum to be able to then take the next step and the next step and the next step. Give you just enough space so you can start to see clearly. When the problem is so right here in your face, all you can see is the obstacle. When you just get a little bit of distance, it's amazing how you can see that there is more out there than just the obstacles that are in your face. And as you start doing a lot of these things, that's what they do. The last one I want to bring up, and I bring this up last, because it was probably the one I found the most difficult to adopt. And that is meditation. Now, some of you are already like, yes, love it, doing it, fantastic, kudos. I want to talk to those of you who are like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about meditation, because I was that person. That was me. Now, I'm somebody who I've been doing quiet time and, journaling and morning reflection for decades now. So that wasn't new to me. But the thought of sitting down and doing nothing, because really meditation, if you really, really break it down, it's thinking about nothing, it's doing absolutely nothing. And you're just like focusing on your breath for however long. And that just really made no sense to me whatsoever. I'm like, I've got things to do. Let's get going. And here was, I guess, the real overall problem, and maybe some of you can empathize with this, is my mind was just racing with all the things that I need to be doing. And how I'm wasting time sitting here breathing when there's a world of problems and issues and everything that is just waiting for me as soon as I get done. here's so I spent years just repelled by the idea. I tried every so often because somebody like this would just say, you need to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I give it another shot and get disgusted very quickly and kind of move on again. The thing that finally got me where I understood and I'm like, okay, I'm willing to give this a try was understanding that I was having these like rapid fire, constant thoughts that were relentless. And I would even say intrusive, just this bombardment going day and into the night, making it difficult to even sleep. And the whole point of meditation isn't to do nothing. That's actually not. The whole point of meditation was to gain control over that bombardment of my mind, was to harness it and to rein it in. Because whenever your brain is just going like that, constantly, one, it's exhausting. Two, it's actually not that productive because you're not able to really gain clear focus. It's like constant distraction. And in general, I would say that those thoughts were really all that positive. I mean, if I was really going to take a snap poll of what was coming through, it really wasn't all that uplifting. So, this relentlessness of negativity, it needed to get reined in. And when, yes, there's people who are using medications, just take a pill and it just calms everything. But the problem is it calms down all of it. It takes the good and the bad. What I really enjoyed about meditation, once I understood it, is it's really just about strengthening. It's like training a muscle up. And the muscle is your mind to slow down, to stop the bombardment, to take captive the thought, and also just eliminate that wastefulness of energy to just what I really should be doing in that moment. The other beautiful thing that I understood was it's not like these 3-day retreats of meditation that you can start with just 30 seconds, a minute. 10 minutes is more than enough for the most people in a day to get incredible results. And once I started experiencing that ability to not have all the noise all the time, it's really easy to start to see the forest for the trees and to see what was really causing, what was causing all of this discontent and this negativity, and to see a clearer path towards joy, freedom, abundance. By no means do I think that this solves all the world's problems. This is a first step. But for those of you who you fit into the categories that I described from the beginning, where these other things aren't working, and the thought of longevity, the thought of living longer, it may not even sound like a great idea to you, because do I really want to live longer with this? And the thing that I'm just going to encourage you with is I've seen so many individuals who within a very, very, very short period of time, with the right fuel, with the right attitude, and with the right company, made incredible strides. I can't tell you how many individuals, we meet one time and then 90 days later, I ask them, how have you been doing? They're like, yeah, I really don't have it anymore. It's just kind of gone. And that's the encouragement that I want to give each and every one of you. It can be very, very simple. It doesn't have to be hours and hours and it consume your life like it has been. The answer doesn't have to consume your life. The answer can be so simple, and it can be incredibly liberating. Well, that's it for today. I'm your host, Dr. Jae Hitson, and thank you so much for joining me on the Longevity Lab. That's it for today's episode of the Longevity Lab. If this conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to start small. Breathe, fuel your body, move, and surround yourself with the right people. Anxiety doesn't have to dictate your life. The real solutions do exist. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive deeper into optimizing your health, visit us at GoodDoctors.Health for more resources and guidance. Thank you for being here. Take care, stay well, and I'll see you next time on the Longevity Lab.